But why should we be contemplatives? Why should humans spend time looking at their own mind, looking at their own heart, looking at their own patterns, their own behaviors, and so on? Because sometimes it's easier, it's convenient for us just to live a mechanical life between the push and pull of the world. When you are living between the push and pull of the world, there is very little thinking that you have to do. But again, your rational side will tell you that you are the one who's doing the thinking and making the decisions and making the choices. But in fact, that is not the case. It is simply oscillating between struggles and joys of living in this world. A philosopher from India, Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, if you ever get a chance, you should read his work. And Krishnamurti suggested it is no measure of health. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. A contemplative offers that contrast. A contemplative actually offers the contrast to this life where we look around us and we look around senseless choices, senseless violence. We look around the origins of all the tendencies, especially hateful, greedy tendencies, violent tendencies that are there, and we ask our questions, why has this become the norm? Why is it that our appetite has grown so much that we are willing to accept all of it? So, in the many lives that I have lived in the short span of this life, I've had the good fortune of being with many activists, many wonderful teachers. Some, I would say, even saintly figures. Some actually have become recognized saints. And one of the things that I found profoundly moving was their deep belief in a contemplative life. They were out there making positive change in the world, day in and day out. But where they derived their strength from was the interior. Where they derived their strength, their courage, was from the interior, deep within, spending a lot more time there. And what was interesting was that they did not waste time simply talking about the world or talking about the state of the world. Their first and foremost concern was transformation of the self. They were not keen on just transforming the world or transforming the society. They were interested in it, but their first and foremost objective was a positive transformation of the self. Why? Because it's realistic. The idea that I'm going to change the world, or that I'm going to change the society in a day, a week, a month, a year, is highly unrealistic, highly improbable. Even prophets couldn't do that. Even saints couldn't do that. I doubt that God can do that, given the stubbornness of the species that He has created. But self-transformation, that the willingness on the part of an individual to say that I want to become a better human, that I want to become better than how I have viewed myself yesterday or last week. That is a realistic proposition. To be able to create that will for self-transformation That is a realistic proposition. And if we have a community of individuals that strive together for that process, that strive together to become better in this movement of self-transformation, that's realistic. That's why oftentimes people quote Gandhi saying, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." It's not a fluffy, romantic supposition, meaning that self-transformation is perhaps the most realistic change that is possible within our own lifetime. And if we are able to emphasize positive transformation on part of the individual, chances are that we'll be able to transform the community and the society and the civic society at large. But it all begins with the individual. Yes, we can create social movements that can encourage individuals as a catalyst to say, become the change. But that's one of the most sort of fruitful things, I think, when it comes to seeing social change, that become a contemplative. Spend some time with yourself. Make your mind your own ally. And begin to see what the possibilities are. Then you're able to manifest that possibility around you. Otherwise, what happens is the unrealistic expectations. I have envisioned a world. I want other people to be part of that world. I want other people to manifest those qualities, but me, no, I'm just busy envisioning the world. And if people around me change, then chances are that the world is going to become a better place. That is highly unrealistic and highly improbable. And so one of the things that I've noticed in my own lifetime with a number of leaders of such movements and so on is that they were willing to spend time on their own. Earlier, when we were sitting, I was talking with one of the bishops from Maryland, and we were reminiscing about certain individuals. And so Archbishop Desmond Tutu came in our conversation. And I had the good fortune of studying with him. He was a dear mentor to me. And one day, in Cape Town, I was talking to somebody, and I said, so how was he like during the time of apartheid? Because now I'm seeing him as a leader. I see him as a deeply prayerful person, as a contemplative. And he said, this gentleman who was a journalist, he says, one day I'm following him to a protest. And this is when Tutu was not that recognized of a figure, but he was a leader. And he said, so I followed him to the protest, and then after the protest was over, he gave a speech and everything, and then he got in the car. And so I asked if I could sit with him in the car on the way back, hoping that I'll have time to interview him. And we both sat in the car, and the moment the doors closed and the car started moving, Tutu just went like this. And he wouldn't raise his head for another hour and a half. And he realized that this is what he did. This is how he energized himself in between all these things, all these engagements that were taxing, that were draining in certain ways, which was that he would make time to engage in silence, to engage in prayers, to engage in sort of a contemplative activity, and so on. So you find these individuals who are training themselves constantly in a contemplative manner, and that's where they derive their strength to be able to both envision and manifest a sense of change around the world.